My name is Yolanda Bonadonna. I am an executive coach and I am the VP for programming of the ICF South Florida chapter. I am thrilled. I'm more than happy to welcome all of you. Some of you are familiar faces, so great to see you. We are here today for a webinar on peer learning, more supporting, less directing. And that, as you know, is the coaching way. So that concept is familiar to us. And we are going to be learning a methodology that has that concept behind it. It is very simple and powerful, and the great thing about it is that you will be learning by experiencing it. It's not going to be a lecture on the methodology, but it's the actual doing it, and you're going to be able to go through the process from beginning to end. So the idea is that you learn the process in a way. I have done it once, so this is just my second time, and I'll be coaching. So it's interesting how you can pick up on the main things of the methodology and actually run with it and use it immediately. So that's the good part of it. And because you don't only learn the mechanics, but you get excited about it because it's powerful. So because we have this exercise as being central to our presentation today, so we have some coaches assigned to each breakout room. We're going to be in breakout rooms. We have a coach and we have a client assigned to each room. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank them for being here. And they are going to, they have the FC initial by their name. So that's a facilitating coach. And also I'm going to ask the clients to add the word client to their name so that we can identify them as clients. They are all supporting us to help us make this event more meaningful to you. So that's the whole thing. We are also, this is going to be very much hands-on, and we also have the fortune to have Ernie Turner as leading the way. He is extremely experienced, and he's a co-creator of this methodology. He's been using it for a very long time with groups all over the world. So we're very fortunate to learn it from somebody like Ernie. So from here, Ernie will take it away.
Thank you, Yolanda. About 3 months ago, I met Yolanda at a Cocha Latte up in Palm Beach, and I was very intrigued and had a wonderful time sitting around a table with about 8 coaches. And she said, would you be willing to host Cocha Latte at some point? I said, why not? So we looked in the calendar and we picked up May 21st. So I invite you to join us to this Cocha Latte with your coffee or your, yeah, thank you, Keely, you've got it, your water, whatever it is. This is going to be a very informal coffee conversation. And that's the kind of spirit that we hope that we all bring to this wonderful opportunity to support one another. So often I find that in business meetings, we do a lot of reporting and very little supporting. And so this is all about how do we change that mentality, whether we're in a business or whether we're in organization setting, how do we really help one another? And it's all about the word help. Help is a 4-letter word that doesn't get used enough anywhere in the world, particularly in business. So you're going to be introduced to a very simple, but I have found, as Yolanda mentioned, a very powerful process that has multiple dimensions in terms of application. There are usually 5 questions on people's minds whenever we get into a situation like this. Who's here? Who is this guy? Who are the others? Why are we here? Why am I here? Why did I sign up for this anyway? What do I want to get out of it? What will we do? How will we do it? And so what will we do with what we've done? In a minute, we're going to get to the most important question, which is the who question, where you'll get a chance to introduce yourselves in trios to 2 other members of this group here. I'm assuming most of us are from the South Florida ICF chapter. If you are, just raise your hand with me if you're a member of ICF South Florida. Okay, a fair number of hands. And for those of you who aren't, raise your hands so we get to see who is not yet. Maybe in the future you can become. And I know we've got Maritza from Milan, who's probably traveled the longest in terms of cyber connection here, who used to be a member of the South Florida group. Maritza, raise your hand so we can see you for a minute.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. We're going to get a chance to get to know each other in a bit, and then afterwards I'll come back and I'll tell you in headline form a little bit about the actual 6-step peer learning process. Before we do that, if you could, well, why don't we wait and I'll do that later. So why don't we get into our breakout rooms, and Keely, you're going to do that for us. In your breakout rooms, you're going to have about 10 minutes to briefly introduce yourselves. We want you to tell your other two in your room who you are, name, a little bit about you, and then maybe something that's unusual about you that most people don't know. I find that that's more interesting than trying to look for what we have in common. I like to look at what we have that's different, because that's a point of interest. So for example, I would say my name is Ernie. I come from Fort Lauderdale, and I have 2 heads. I have the head here, and I have a head in Borneo given to me by a headhunter. If you want to know more details of the story, we'll join each other for another cup of coffee. The third thing is something about peer learning. What did you learn? Peer learning, or social learning in its broadest sense of the word, because we learn so much from our peers, and our peers are our friends, family, brothers, sisters, as well as other adults. So I would say I learned how to milk a cow, not by going to school, but when I was 5 years old on a farm in Montana. So we're looking at what have we learned from a peer learning standpoint, what's unique about us and our name. And you can all do that within about a 2-minute point of time. So when you get in your breakout rooms, name, a little bit about you, something that most people don't know, and then something that you've learned from some kind of a peer learning experience. And the purpose here is to understand how powerful peer learning is and how important we need to take it into the work that we do. So, Keely, I'll leave it to you. Put us in trios, and we'll be back here. Keely will bring us back here, and let's make it 9 minutes, Keely, since we're a little bit behind time. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
8 minutes, Keely.
8 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Please join the room when you get the alert. See you back in 8 minutes.
Keely, do you mind putting the agenda on the screen? Thank you so much. You know, one of the things I like about working virtually is you don't have to go out in the hallway and say, we're beginning, we're starting. It just happens very naturally. So we've cleared up a little bit on who's in the room, at least for a few of us in trios. And connection is such a big part of the work that we do. If we don't connect, it's very hard to do all the other things that happen under coaching. So we thought we'd at least begin. And when you get into your breakout rooms, you'll have another chance with your facilitating coach to do another connection with whoever happens to be in the breakout room. So the purpose today is to understand peer learning and the peer learning process that we are practicing in LIM. I'm with a company, an organization, a consulting firm called LIM Leadership in Motion. We're in the voice business. We are in the shared leadership business, the team coaching business, and the learning business. And they all fit together because ultimately all of us are in the learning business. When we stop learning, we very quickly stop earning. So we need to be earning and learning simultaneously. So today, our hope is that you will learn a little bit more about peer learning in its more formal sense. Peer learning generically happens all the time. But in a formal sense, in terms of peer learning, we used to call it peer coaching, and we renamed it to peer learning because it's so easy to adopt, adapt, and then apply. And we hope specifically, because this is going to be ICF sponsored, and one of the competencies, as you know, those of you who are part of the ICF world, is questions are a critical part of what we do. So I've underscored that here so that as we're working in our peer learning circles, we're learning more about what goes into making a question an effective, helpful, powerful question. So we're going to practice that and active listening, which is a key part of the coaching work that we do as well. In addition, we're going to meet some clients, some challenge owners who have either opportunities, problems, or challenges that they're working on, and they have asked for help. And I want to thank you clients for coming forward and doing that, because we wouldn't be able to do the work we do today without you. And the challenge owner is going to be able to share his or her challenge with us. And then we'll be able to support them in a very focused way. We're going to learn a collaborative process. A lot of us are working with clients who need to collaborate better. We have a few tips on collaboration that I hope can help you in the work that you do beyond this, that will increase the engagement and hopefully the joy that people need to have in work. And last here, but not least, is we're expanding our network. And hopefully some of the connections we make today can continue. They have in other peer learning groups like this one. A few of us were in a peer learning webinar just 3 days ago in Colombia. I mean, virtually, but in Colombia, where most of us were really looking at exactly what we're doing today with some Colombian coaches. And the network is already spun out. So you see the agenda today. We're not going to go through now in the detail. Your facilitating coaches have sort of a worksheet for this, and we will be then actually following this pretty closely, because time is going to be our greatest commodity that we need to guide. For those of you who are clients, please put the word client in front of your name. If you could go to your name on your screen with your mouse, right click on your name, and then you'll see a menu drop down where it says rename. And all you have to do is put client and then your name, because Keely is going to be putting you in a special room with the facilitating coaches, and then the rest of you will be in one of the 6 rooms at random. So it's really important for those of you who are clients to quickly right now put your name, client, and then your name. And you don't need to give everything more than your first name. So please do that. And Keely, is that enough for you right now? Okay. All right. So let's see. Shout out from Noureddin to everybody. Client Yolanda. Yes. Okay, good. So we've got the clients named. What we're going to be doing is actually go through a 6-step process that has emerged over the last 20 years. I've had the good fortune to work with AstraZeneca when they were first formed. And Astra, a Swedish company, Zeneca, a British company, were looking at how do we make this merger work. So they took the top 600 leaders, 300 from Astra, 300 from Zeneca, brought them together in a leadership program, 25 people at a time, 30 programs over a 3-year period, from the CEO on down to that 600 group. And one of the things that they did, they asked me if I would put together a peer learning or peer coaching process that everybody could go through. And that has evolved over the last 20 years into what you're going to see today. A lot of people have put their hands on it and given me feedback, and I've tweaked it, and I hope it continues. I got a new tweak 2 weeks ago. And hopefully some feedback will come from you all today as you're going through the process. It's got to be user-friendly. It has to make people feel at ease and comfortable, because we're asking people to do what they normally don't do, which is ask for help. So how do you get people to say, I need some help? And then how do you have a process that allows that to happen so people don't feel judged, but they really feel supported? So you're going to experience that. It has 6 steps. The first step is connect and contract. We put those 2 C's together. So you'll be doing something very quickly with your facilitating coach. You will be able to connect with the others in the room in a very short duplication of what you just did with your other 2 in your trio. And then your facilitating coach will contract once again the time and the process with you. And then the second step will give the client, the challenge owner, who has already volunteered, to say very briefly, no more than 3 minutes, here's the title of my challenge. If you could do a book title or a movie title, make up your own, 2 or 3 words. Here's the context. Here's a little background that you need to know. And here's where I fit in. We don't need a lot of details, and we don't need any confidential names. And thirdly, and very importantly, to write down, and here's the question that's on my mind right now. And we're going to ask the clients, when you get into your room, you can go to chat and write your question as short and concise and clear as possible. And your facilitating coach, when it comes to step 2, will get your question from you along with the title and the context. And then we're going to go to step 3, which is probably the most powerful part of the whole 6 steps. And it allows everyone, the client, as well as the rest of us, coaches, peers, to come up with other questions related to the focus question from our client. And there are 3 criteria for those questions. And your facilitating coaches will tell you what those 3 criteria are to allow the client to really open up his or her thinking. They're not to be answered today because we don't have time. And a lot of us need some time to pause and think before we start answering anyway. So you're not going to be on a spot, clients to have to answer questions. Step 4 is going to go from the questions into some next steps for the client. The client will be thinking, so now that I have these questions and I have some ideas of what I could do, what could I do? And what will I do? And hopefully you can move to why I will as quickly as possible. It's a beginning planning process. Very short, but hopefully very helpful. While the client is doing that, the rest of us will be looking at offers. How can I support the client? What is an idea I have? Just a headline. We're not going to go in depth and say, you know, I could tell you about something called the power planning process and it has 10 steps and here they are. No, just the headline. Or there's an article, or there's a person, or I've gone through something similar. If you're interested, call on me. I'll have a chat with you. So it's very quick offers that if they're not accepted, that's okay. In fact, we're encouraging the client to think before you ask for an offer that's been made. And then we're going to go to the client and say, okay, this has been very short, very brief. How do you feel? And why? What was helpful? So we get some feedback from our client from this very abbreviated coaching learning process. And then 5 minutes before we come back into the big room, your facilitating coach will take you into a brief debrief on the process itself. What have we learned about peer learning? What are some insights? What are some ways that we might be able to apply it, take it forward? And what are some questions that are lingering in my mind about the process that I hope get answered? Okay, so you're going to have that debrief, and then we'll come back to the large group, quickly share. Somebody from each team will be sharing that. So that's a little bit about where we're going. And then after that exchange, I will take a little bit of time and answer as many of those questions and questions that you're going to share in the next minute on chat, so I can help you immediately with some questions related to peer learning. And I'll be able to give some tools or stories that amplify those questions. And then we'll have a brief ending and be out of here by 11:30. So that's the overall purpose, agenda, the how of what we're going to be doing. So before we get into our breakout room, I would like, how are we doing on time here? We're just a little bit over here. So what I'd like for you to do in your chat, each of you, take a minute, go to your chat and write down a question that you have in your mind right now. Hold off on that. We don't need to see that right now. Each of the facilitators have that. I think you can, Keely, you can take this off the screen and you can start organizing the rooms. Keely, do you have all the clients you need?
Yes, Ernie, I just have a quick question because
Right.
right now we have enough coaches and clients for 6 rooms. Even if I put Anna and Lynn together for their
Right.
technology, that would only mean 1 participant per group. So would you prefer that we go to 5 rooms so that
Why
there
don't
can
you do that? Yes.
Okay.
You
And
do that.
does it matter which coach and client I move into participants?
Why don't you move me into one of the rooms with one of the other coaches, anyone, and I
Okay.
will be there as a backup coach. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And then just so the clients know, there might be 2 clients in 1 room, so you'll have to decide when you get into that session. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, thanks a lot. All right, so quick adjustments here. So please go to your chat and write down one question that you, as of now, hope to get answered by the end of the day. Just a very short question, that's all you need. 1 minute, please.
I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody else. So I'm going to be asking groups to report.
We're back, Yolanda. We're all in the main room.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm addressing the main room now, the larger room. Okay. All right. Okay. So I was saying that I am interested in getting feedback from every room, every group. So I'm going to be asking different groups. The note taker, you probably have a note taker. A note taker is going to give us some highlights of the conversation they had regarding the last piece, which was the debriefing part only. So we just need to talk about that. Give us some highlights of the conversation in your group so that everybody else learns about it in the larger group. So
And we have one minute. 1 minute per group, Yolanda.
Okay, yes, we have 1 minute per group. So you got to really tell us just the essence of the conversation. So can I have the group with Catherine as the coach? Who is the note taker of Catherine?
Maria, you can talk.
No, Maria was the timer.
Exactly, I was the timekeeper. I wasn't taking notes.
Yeah. Luba, yeah, go ahead.
So I think we had a good problem to discuss, shared by Susie, and the debrief would be that the process felt more like mentoring rather than peer learning, and we felt very stuck by the process, like the step-by-step, instead of the dynamics of going through the process. So I think from the client perspective, she felt more being mentored than coached, and felt that she was forced to follow a process instead of feeling more going with the flow of what she's thinking.
Right.
So overall good learning, and interesting to just I think for me it would have been more effective if we were asking questions instead of writing the questions, but I guess that's the tool. Thank you.
Yeah, the methodology requires us to just get the questions written, and then the client will still benefits from listening to the questions and from keeping the questions for later reflection. So, but yes, maybe the little time that we had also contributed and going through the steps to make it so structured and not flow organically. I hear you. Thank you, Lubna. Can we hear from Maritza's group now?
And our client, Marcia, is going to try the summary. Thank you, Marcia.
Okay, I felt the opposite of the mentoring. Maybe it's because it's my style. I think depending on the style of the person may affect how the person feels. I felt coached, not really mentored, because they really asked me open questions as a curiosity of how I was feeling about my thing, and which really ignited more thinking in my process. I found similar questions written in different ways that can turn my thinking process. I think this is very, very useful. And in the offers side, just the explanation of it, I feel comfortable of taking my own steps on deciding what offers I can take later is also very helpful. But it's interesting because two different people with two different perspectives. I felt completely coached because the questions were so open-ended and curious about my issue that I felt really now exploring more, and questions that I haven't asked myself, some of them. So.
Absolutely. See, as you said, that's a very good point of observation, that the coaching style of the coach, of the person leading the exercise, also has to do with creating that relaxing and more organic kind of environment. Thank you very much.
And the client
Marcia.
style as well. So I think it's a combination. Okay.
It's a yes, the people in the room. Okay, all right. So how about Allison's group?
Sure. So Otto was our note taker, so I'll turn it over to Otto.
Okay,
No, the
okay.
note taker in your group.
Yeah, it was me here.
Otto?
So, in general, you know, from a 30,000 feet level, it's easy. It was easy for Allison to facilitate. So it's a very straightforward process. The client found it to be very helpful and expanding the vision. So it was a very useful tool to expand their vision of the issue. Very insightful and allow the client to have more clarity behind the purpose of what is that the client was really needing. And it was super straightforward and easy to get support, and instant support in a very short time frame from many inputs and many heads thinking together. So we were able to address a lot. And the thing about written is that even though we got a little bit into the problem solving, but to Marcia's points, if the questions are wide open and open-ended, it still could be coaching. But having the questions written for future thought, it's very interesting. So the client can always go back and see, all right, this is interesting. So in general, this was the feeling. Very powerful, and it was very efficient for the short time allocated. So it could be a very powerful tool if you have time constraints.
You know what, you touched on to the aspect that is very, very very powerful and very useful, in the sense that it is just, if you think in terms of the time, must have been like 5 minutes in particularly that part of the questions, and you get so much information out of that. So it's fabulous. That's one of the characteristics that are very, very important, and your team, your group got that. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. So how about Ernie's group? Who is the note taker for Ernie's group?
Ernie was in the same group as me.
Yeah,
so.
and the same as
Oh, sorry, Maritza.
Yeah.
Oh, Maritza. Okay, my mistake. Who is the note taker?
We got 2 minutes left.
Okay.
We already heard from Maritza's group and my group.
We already heard from Marcia, which was our client.
Marcia was it? Oh, sorry. Okay, let's go to my team then. How about Jimmy? Oh, Jimmy, unmute yourself, please.
It sounds like Otto really hit it on the head. I think that with our client, she felt that it definitely felt like coaching. Yes, it was peer learning, but it was coaching. I think it seemed like the difference was, it was almost like a shortcut. Like we were hurrying up and getting to the, addressing the problem quicker, which, it definitely can be effective in the short term. And again, with the having the questions to reflect on later allows for a better opportunity to reframe things and look at the offers and have something, instead of trying to remember what you have to do and solve it right then. It gives you the time to really plan out how you want to address your solution to the situation. Mariana, what did you want to add?
Oh, Mariana has left already. No, what I want to add is that we spend time on making the question more focused, more specific, and that was time well spent according to our client. So that was the learning. The learning for us was that we need to spend time on helping the client nail it in terms of the question. That makes a big difference.
Right.
Yes. Okay, Carol is saying yes. Yeah. Anybody else left? I don't think we're.
Yes.
Is there, okay, Anna.
Our team.
Please.
Yeah. I'm going to read the notes very quickly. Pure learning provides opportunity to capture knowledge and experience from others. Others may have dealt with the same or similar issues, may provide a quick solution to move forward. There's no there's no substitute for people helping people. Application with executives to create a culture where it's okay to ask and receive help. One of the questions was, what can I do more to expand my appreciation and application of peer learning? And the other question was, what would we expand on if we had more time in the near future?
All right.
Those were our insights.
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you,
Ernie.
Yolanda. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking at our watch here, and it's 11:20, and we've got 10 minutes to go, and we're going to let you go at 11:30. And if those of you who want to stay and pursue some of the other questions, we can do that. But I'll take 5 minutes now to react to some of the questions. Keely has taken your initial questions, put it into a Word document. I'm not going to read it now, but I will look at it later, and we'll send all of answers to all of your questions. So those of you that want it, if you could just put your email in the chat, I'll make sure that I get a note out to you probably by tomorrow with answers to all the questions. I've also put a frequently asked question group together from a group in Colombia on Monday, which is very rich in questions, and I'll add those to yours. So for those of you that are really looking to understand a little bit more of the nuances around the subtleties of this next step, I will certainly send them to all of you. So if you could do that while I'm talking. What I'll do is answer a couple things. First of all, I think there's a notion that when we have a little bit of time, we need to talk. And I have discovered that if you take a minute, even in a limited amount of time, you can expand that time immeasurably to the number of people you have in a room. So if you have 5 people in the room and you take 1 minute to think, you've got an extra 5 minutes. Because what that does, it helps those of us who are introverts really think. We can't think with a lot of people talking. Extroverts like to think out loud. And they can take all of that 5 minutes if you have a limited amount of time. And I've seen it time and again in a group where an extrovert or a few extroverts can actually take over a meeting. And those of us who are introverts are trying to think and trying to listen and doing very poorly at either. So when you're in a tight piece of time, thinking and writing, the writing process is a wonderful way to uncover a lot of thoughts, a lot of questions, offers, next steps that you didn't even know you had. So I would encourage us, and one of you have said, how does it affect my personal style of coaching? I have actually, in one-on-one coaching with my clients, invited them to take a couple minutes of silence and invited myself in to be them in their shoes and write questions. And they found it extremely helpful to get those additional insights and questions that are open-ended, not making recommendations. So there's a little bit of work that I think we can all do in terms of how do we, certainly I'm an introvert, so this process helps people like me get a step back and do a little bit of thinking. But in every group, there's probably an equal amount of introverts, extroverts. So it helps both extroverts clarify, it helps the introverts think. As a consequence, everybody gets to speak. You've got better questions and you've got greater ownership. So that stop, reflect, write, report, that little process we used is a wonderful way to increase, expand the level of engagement in any group. I use it a lot with business teams. Sometimes they only have 10 minutes. That was on the agenda, and like today, time escape. So what the team leader or somebody will say is, look, Otto, you said you were on for a team learning piece. If you could just give us in 2 minutes your question and your context, then what the rest of us will do is get back to you tomorrow with our offers and our questions. And or if you have a little more time, we will read them out and write them down. So, or put them on Post-its. There's a lot of ways to very quickly in businesses help your team ask for help. So I found it very helpful in team meetings. It can be used. People have asked, what are other applications? I've done it in family. I've worked with my father-in-law who had ended his career and said, now what? And he was very depressed. We did a peer learning process. In the morning, in the afternoon, he took all of our questions that were on Post-its and came back that evening with a solution and a big smile on his face. I bumped into a woman on a beach, and I literally bumped into her. She was trying to sell me a diving package, and I was ready to go diving. And she had tears in her eyes where she was telling me about diving. And I said, well, you've got a great job. She said, no, I'm not crying about the job. I'm crying because I almost committed suicide last week. This is not what I want to do. We did a peer learning just on the spot. Within a half hour, she walked away with some questions, some ideas that got her to start talking to her husband and her kids, and was transformational. I've seen this process applied in all kinds of situations. And so it can be adapted in terms of time. It can be adapted in terms of the number of people you're working with. It's got a lot of flexibility in terms of the process. So my invitation is try it out. Obviously, if we had had more time today, you could have taken a deeper dive into the questions. You could have been able, before getting back to the offers and the next steps, to check in with your client and say, look, are you still focused on the same question, or has it migrated? Because very often a client's question will go from more of a systemic question or symptomatic question to a causal question, and they can get that just within a few minutes. And so before you go into the offers, find out, has it changed? Because then your offers can be more explicit. I could say a lot more. I'm limited on time. I just want to thank you for bearing with the tightness on time. We had about 2.5 hours when we did it for the Colombian group, and we wanted to respect the chocolate or the Cocholate time frame of 9:30 to 11. But try it out, experience it. If you want to get back with your same group, this would be a wonderful way to do a little more practice, allow yourself a little more time, have an hour to an hour and a half with your small group to practice it again. One of you could be the facilitating coach, somebody else could be the client, and you can get that practice. And then we encourage you to really pay it forward. This is something we're offering as an idea that we have seen very powerful, transforming lives in all kinds of environments. Find a small group other than the one you were in, or in addition to the one you were in, and try it out and pay it forward. We want peer learning to become the coronavirus of coaching and learning, so that we can counteract some of the challenges that we and our colleagues and neighbors around the world are facing. It's a wonderful gift to be able to support somebody. We're here to help. So I'm going to close with that. If any of you want to,
Ernie, let me just say a word or two.
Right.
We still have 4 minutes. Do you mind?
Could I just acknowledge that this is part of a larger network called Peer Learning, and Lynn Feingold is one of the founders of Peer Learning. So Lynn, before we go, just raise your hand and give us a smile from Washington, D.C. And
I was wondering if they could be in touch with the Peer Learning Network if they needed help paying it forward.
There's a wonderful, go ahead.
Should they send it to you, me, or how should we do that?
Send a note to me. I'll make sure that you get it, Lynn. Any of the output from today's meeting in terms of questions, my answers to your questions, and you're going to get an e-gift of an article that Lynn has written, that I have written about peer learning, that will give you a little more of an understanding, plus an annotated guide on the peer learning process. Over to you, Yolanda.
Sorry, I just wanted to know if you still wanted people to say from 1 to 10 whether they, they found this experience valuable. Just enter in the chat one number from 1 to 10, 1 being the least and 10 being the most useful, valuable experience. And then I'm going to close the webinar to Lubna, our president. She wants to give some words to all of us and let us know about ICF and who we are and what are we doing, right? With you, go ahead, Lubna. While you please put the number on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you for facilitating this. We appreciate you. There are many programs coming up in June, so please check our events calendar on the ICF South Florida website. Just wanted to let you know that we are the leading global organization dedicated to advancing what you do, the coaching profession. And we are committed as a South Florida chapter to promote more connections like you see today, to create more commitment, and most importantly, competence. So our focus this year has been strongly on creating more of a competency-based learning like today. So thank you, Ernie, for your time. We appreciate it. And just wanted to remind you that you could be part of this amazing network. And my goal and my dream is in August, we all get together, for those who, you know, are brave enough that Corona has been hit and overcome with a great vaccine, that we would celebrate together our social network and meeting together. So if you're interested, if you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me, and I will put my number on the chat. I know some of you, you know, approach me about being members. Great. You'll hear from me today. So thank you for that. But know that this is a chapter that's really dedicated, and we're not for profit. So we create learning for the sake of learning. And I wish you more success in your coaching journey. For those of you who are new to this, Jimmy, Maria, and many of you, we love you and we want to support you in this journey. So please be in touch. Thank you all. Thank you for your hard work, Yolanda and Keely. Shout out to Keely.
Excellent, Keely and Yolanda. Thank you so much, Ernie, and all the coaches here. Thank you.
Thank you so much to
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, clients. You're free to go. If you want the Q&A, be sure to give your email address so we can send it to you. And if any of you would like to stay on beyond the closing and ask other questions, those of us on the facilitating coach staff will be with you for the next 15 minutes. And then we're going to have our own debrief to be able to look at how things went and what we could do differently at a different time. So part of the learning process. So for the next 15 minutes, those of you that want to stay, please stay on. For those of you that need to leave, please go. And thank you again for being here.
And Ernie, this question Galia posted when we were in our group, and later she posted here about validation for the client or the person who has the issue. Is this part of the process as well? Because how do you treat that?
So before we did the debrief and exchange more at a high level, the work that your team did with you, it's up to you to figure out how you want to go back to those members of your team and take any of their offers. So if we don't hear from you, that's quite okay. And it's up to you to say, you know, Maritza, I need one of the things that you offered. So it's up to the client to really ask and to do it offline rather than right in the group, so that there's no fear or no way of offending somebody. We're not going to be offended if you don't call us.
Yeah. But what I understood, and Galia, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the people offering before making the offer or talking about the offer, validating the client.
Oh, that's another
issue.
piece. Yes.
So, yeah, this is correct, Galia. So I just want to make sure that I got your question.
Yes, I felt that it was, Marcia, your goal and your question really prompted me to want to celebrate where you were and acknowledge you before I made you an offer. And so I wanted to insert that before my offer.
Yeah. No, I truly like your question, not necessarily in my context, because many times when the clients are just saying what they need or the offer, and now talking as a client, I felt super, oh my gosh, people love me and they want to help me. So that's the feeling of being a client in this. And our clients, many times, they are so afraid or thinking that I'm the only one who has this problem in the world, and the validation comes when you said that, comes to me or say, oh, you got 5 questions, you said out loud what you need. So that's the celebration that I found interesting in your question, Galia.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, Marcia, you were feeling that acknowledgement, appreciation from the kind of questions we were asking, which gave us, as the questioners, some real empathy with you, which was conveyed. But I think the piece that you're asking, Galia, is there an opportunity for us as the coaches to say, oh my God, what a terrific challenge you're facing. You know, you've got our support. That is hopefully will come through in the offers to be a little, at that point, to be able to give some acknowledgement and say, you know, here's a way that I can support you. I think you're tackling a tough challenge, and here's how I think I could help if you're interested. So not saying you need to or you should, or I've got the magic here, is saying here's an idea. But when there's more time, Galia, I think there is more opportunity to be able to be a little more comfortable and not look at the outline as a straitjacket, if that's in the worst sense of the word. Other questions that you might have that came up from your experience?
Suli?
Yeah, hi. I don't know if I missed something or not. I was a client. I had great feelings and results like Marsha, but I was a little bit confused with the process. I missed, perhaps me, the goal from the empowering questions on who, what, how, where, and from there to the offer. I didn't see the process between A and B. What did I miss?
Not being in the group, I'm not sure, but the idea that very often once we hear what your focus question is, the notion is first let's explore with other questions, how to unpack that, expand it by open-ended questions, and then to be able to check back in with you as a client and say, Suli, has your question changed at all? And then if it has, then you can say, yeah, it has now. I've picked up another question that I think is more important for me to focus on right now, and here it is. Before your peers say, okay, here's some offers that we could make. And so that, I don't know if it happened, but that's a segue. And that's something I recently added to this process, is being able to check back with the client and say, before we go into us making some offers, which are just ideas to consider, or another conversation to have to further it, knowing that now's not the time for you as a client to answer the questions. Probably because it might put you on the spot and take you away, and you might feel a little bit nervous. This happens to some people, and I've seen it happen, particularly in a business setting where they felt like they're a bit on the spot. But say, take it away, think about it, answer those questions that are pertinent to you.
So you have a script for the beginning process. Did the facilitators get a script for the process? Okay.
You're going to get, I'll send the annotated guide.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yes. Okay. So there is an annotated guide that gives some of the subpoints underneath each of these 6. So you'll get that. You'll get a copy of that. Right.
Thank you for the clarification.
We also have it in Spanish, if there's anyone here that would prefer to read it in Spanish. And we got that translated last week.
Yeah.
So either way, yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one. This is Maria.
Yeah, Maria.
I think it was a great experience. I just want to share what happened also in our team. Lobna already shared with you, all of you, that we were like in a mentoring process in a way, because my experience is that I felt like leading questions, that I had my agenda instead of my coachee agenda. So that's what our client experienced. And that's what I felt. The exercise great, but in a way, that's what I felt.
Right. You know, every question is leading. You can't ask a question without leading somewhere. But it's when you get strong leadership, like Maria, have you talked to Allison yet? That's pretty leading. That's almost a recommendation in disguise. And it's a you question, as opposed to saying, who else could I talk to? Which is really open-ended, and it's really leading you to start thinking about other people I could talk to. Some people will ask a question, have you ever considered doing something like, and then they give the answer in the question. So we're trying to stay away from that and let the client do the thinking, rather than we ask a question and at the end of it, tell them what we think they ought to do. So, you know, we're trying to get away from that kind of question when we say I questions, to give empathy, which also makes it easier for the client to listen than a you question. A you question often is, you know, let me tell you. And I had that happen. I was working with a client in Vietnam, and he was with his teammates. And we were asking you questions at that time in my evolution of the program. And he said, Ernie, after I got it, wonderful questions, but by hearing you, I was feeling, oh my God, my peers are starting to beat up on me and tell me what to do. I don't think I should have taken this on. And I said, Chris, we can change that very easily by changing them from you to I questions. So it's how do we make it easier for somebody to ask for help and get help in a friendly way.
Okay,
So,
that's great to hear. Thank you so much.
So the subtlety of the questions is really important. And there's a framework that some of us use called power planning, which is power coaching, that has a number of wonderful questions underneath the planning process. And coaching is a planning activity. We're helping our clients really plan to get from A to B. And so by having these different steps in it, like lessons from the past, key stakeholders, assumptions, all of these little steps that we do in our coaching process, having that as a model to ask questions can be a very powerful way to help our clients think. You know, we haven't gone through a course in thinking. I don't know any school or any college that says we're going to learn about thinking. It happens, and we don't really think. How do we think anyway? Which is part of coaching. Other questions?
Thank you so much.
To share. One is a question, the other is a reflection. The first question is, the people who joined the session today, they knew what to expect, or that was completely unexpected? I mean, this is just one of the questions. And how good is that they know a little bit how they are going to find in the space, or not, or just arrive completely, you know, unprevented? And the second thing I want to share is a reflection that is, I am really happy I learned something super amazing today. And it's also knowing the profile of the people before to lead the group help you, for example, to realize in my group, no, they were very clear. We have been coached since 35 years old. Okay, that's nice, amazing. But it's also to, you know, when you are working with a, like, I don't know, executive direction of a multinational company, it's one kind of approach, and it's different when you are talking with, I don't know, somebody who just met at a bar, right? But in here, the group is completely mixed. So you cannot just design what profile approach is what I mean. So you also have to somehow balance power inside of the group and also be able to give the best experience for each of us. But the levels are so different. So this is something interesting to think about it.
Right, that's where I think there's an equalizing factor in giving people time to think before they speak. So that's what I found, particularly in business groups where there's often a formal leader or an informal leader that takes a lot of the airtime. And quick anecdote, I was hired by the head of the international division of a big food company. And he said, Ernie, I've got 2 people on my team. I hired them last year and I don't know why they never speak up. So I said, don't tell me who they were. I worked with him and his team for 2 days. And at the end, he looked at the team and he said, I told Ernie that I was thinking of firing 2 of you. If anybody should have been fired, it should have been me. I talk too much. What we're going to do from now on is use that stop, reflect, write report so that everybody, introverts and extroverts, and myself included, have some time to think before we talk. It's going to save so much time, so much energy, and get everybody heard. We'll have better ideas. So some of the little tools here have really been able to do exactly what you're suggesting here, is to equalize, particularly in a diverse group. Give people who are poor English speakers. Often in global companies, we have people who come in at a disadvantage and often sit and listen and don't get heard. So this can help out. We've got another minute to go before we're going to get into our facilitating.
I have to go. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Marcia, nice having you as a client.
Talk soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.